Kia ora guys and welcome back to the Black Jersey. My name's Max. A massive thank you to my patrons, and for today's video, the All Blacks are through to the semi-finals of the 2023 Rugby World Cup. After a pretty rough last 4 years, I had genuinely been dreading this day for over 2 years. I was not waking up in a good mood. I was like, oh my goodness, let's just hope let's get this over and done with. The boys pulled through. I'm absolutely thrilled to get a victory, but I'm also really impressed at Ireland how they put up such an amazing fight. These were two genuinely just even teams gunning at each other, and willpower ended up winning in the end. We're going to break down how the All Blacks beat Ireland in the quarterfinals of the 2023 Rugby World Cup and decide whether they are cursed or not at the end of the video. Let's get into this. Something I'll really get into later on was the way Ireland didn't take the 3-pointers as often as they should have. By taking the shots at goal on offer, the All Blacks were able to build a 6-0 lead ahead of their opening try. The try we're about to examine is very reminiscent of a try scored by Damien Penaud in the Six Nations this year. After Penaud passes to Jalonch on 16:56, the Irish defence line is in absolute disorder. I've talked in so many videos, all sliding across the screen right now, about the Irish cover defence using a speed bump as the introduction for a potential turnover. Because Ireland are in an unstructured pitch, they can't fall back on speed bumps and are forced to put genuine shots on the French. The cover defence, I'll put it this way, was possibly designed out of the sake of James Lowe, Gary Ringrose and Johnny Sexton's tackle technique. I'll leave it at that. Sexton, as we can see, falls off the tackle of Jalonch, and without a proper line surrounding Hansen, Penaud is free to beat 3 defenders to score a beautiful try. I won't be able to use any genuine footage of the World Cup over here, but anyway, while there is a line in front of Beauden Barrett on 18:28 of the quarterfinal, it's not organised. Keenan is all the way over here, miles offside, while Gary Ringrose, who's a centre, is over here on the wing. As the ball goes mid-air, we get further proof of Barrett making the right choice to kick, as Hansen is so far behind Ringrose. I'll now show you guys this animation here to explain the massive amount of space this kick creates. Because Barrett kicks the ball between the space of the 2 defenders, Lowe and Hansen, the 2 wingers, are both required to come in to meet Barrett and form a ruck, so that a clean-out option is here. Because Barrett's teammates will be coming to cover, there's now extra space for them to attack. When Lowe binds to Hansen on 18:34, Furlong is the only forward on side, meaning Ringrose is now forced to fill in as a sweeper to defend against an offload. 2 seconds later on 18:36, as Tyrell Lomax wants to pass out wide, the need for Ringrose to cover the sweeper role now leaves the Irish short of numbers in their main line. We can clearly see who is marking who based on the white arrows, but with Ringrose still following the animation to wrap around and mark Ioane, Ireland are stuck a man short. A missed tackle by Ringrose on Fainga'anuku after he slots between Ardie and Doris now puts Ardie in a 2-on-1 against Ioane and Fainga'anuku, who runs in for his 5th try of the Rugby World Cup. Something that had me really perplexed though was the amount of phases strung together by both teams throughout this match. In 2019 we were often seeing a lot of multi-phase, ingenious plays all coming off several pieces at a time, all doing everything. Nowadays a lot of tries in World Rugby, they're getting scored a lot quicker with very few moves, because the longer you take to set up the try, I think it's giving the opposition a bit more time to analyse, figure out what's going out, read into the patterns a bit more. And so it's very interesting seeing the Irish taking all these phases, the All Blacks taking all these phases, because this now brings us to Ireland's 11 phases in a row during the 27th minute. De Groot hasn't quite shifted closely enough to Taylor. He doesn't need to remain so close to the breakdown. This is because of Scott Barrett's long-term role as a key fringe guard at the All Blacks open side off the ruck. This means that when we arrive on 26:50, the All Blacks may have the numbers on the open side, with 6 of them to the right of Sexton. They don't, however, have these 6 players at the right width to take care of the Irish players. It's a totally different story about if Los Pumas will figure that out for next week, but the 5 Irish players are much wider. Ioane is marking Hansen, while Fainga'anuku is marking Ardie, meaning the All Blacks defence is drifting to the open side while the ball on the red crosses mid-air. Ioane gets across in time. A great dummy by Ardie though allows for him to step inside off his left foot, while this horror show tackle by Frizzell allows Ardie to face multiple defenders who are side on. It's a bit of an unrealistic expectation for Kane and Lomax to land this tackle, because as we see, they've both got just a single shoulder to land the hit with, which gives Ardie the spinal support to have a gravitational advantage. It's very easy to say these are bad tackles, but when we go back to 26:48, we can very obviously see De Groot, Lomax and Kane all zone in on Sexton during his last game as a professional athlete. If they weren't zoning in on Sexton, they'd be able to drift as per this animation to cover the holes out wide. The issue over here of perhaps not moving too far away from the breakdown during a defensive play, it's something I've never seen from Ethan de Groot before. I've called a fair few other players like David Parecki out for doing this repeatedly in the past. De Groot, however, very good defensive track record. He's never done that before, so I won't read into this one too much. I think it's just a case of, de Groot missing a few games during the World Cup, and it's all good. I think we don't need to worry about it for next week. Anyway, since I've critiqued the All Blacks for not defending the fringes of the breakdown too well for a particular period, I'm sure as heck doing it for Ireland. I know the picture is a bit blurry, but we can all see Doris, Van der Fleer and Porter all packed together for a bit. Considering the fact that Lowe, currently hiding behind Porter, was just at the bottom of the ruck, this wasn't a good idea as there was an absence of cover out wide. I'll now do what we normally do and cut to the wide shot so that we can see Byrne tackling Jordan and Gibson-Park wanting to tackle Ioane. Byrne needs to be where Gibson-Park is, or Gibson-Park needs to be where the red cross is. That way Savea isn't left unmarked. Lowe being at the bottom of the ruck in this shot here will temporarily put on screen then slide away, means his team have to cover for him, but they don't. Because Van der Fleer is in the red circle, not where Byrne is here, Ireland simply don't have the numbers out wide, and I'm sure you guys all know rugby well enough to see that Savea will score off this pass. Anyway, I don't think there's too much to analyse from the final try of the first half, but I just want to play it to you guys who are new to rugby so I can kind of demonstrate the dangers of being down to 14 players as the result of a yellow card. Aaron Smith in any normal situation would probably slot between where Jordan is here and between the hinge of the maul. This fake Aaron Smith with a black 9 graphic though isn't present, meaning Gibson-Park can run through the gap between the maul and Jordan to get the try. Now we arrive at the halftime stats of this game and the All Blacks winning by 18 to 17. I wasn't getting too excited, I was pretty terrified still, and I was thinking, man, could Ireland lift their curse, or are the boys finally going to do it? I was really torn about how the rest of the game was going to go. As we can see with the territory and possession stats, it was such an absolutely even game. Ireland, the All Blacks, both sides had a fair few jitters as well, so I wish I could have some handling error stats. Thanks Ultimate Rugby, who are my source for statistics. Anyway, 51% territory. I think we can move on to that because when we see the meters run, it starts to paint a bit more of a picture. We see the evenness, but Ireland are beating a lot more defenders there, sorry. The fact that Ireland are beating a lot more defenders, the loop pattern I've shown you guys in many videos, I think it was a case of them trying that pattern too many times that the All Blacks read it, so Ireland was starting to revert to a lot of crash ball runs, a lot more one-dimensional play, and this backfired on them big time, though they were beating more defenders. Ireland, we're definitely passing, offloading a lot more, trying to use those looping passes, get pods passing to distributors from out the back, but it just wasn't working. And the All Blacks, the key stat over here that was going to tell us the final score of the game, it was the turnovers one there, man. The wind's blowing around a lot, but what wasn't blowing around was the ball in the breakdown. It was firmly under the All Blacks' grip. 3 turnovers compared to 1. Considering Ireland have the best defence in the world with a cover defence, I was dreading how the breakdown was going to go ahead of this game based on so many analysis videos I've done, but the All Blacks were awesome at that. Ireland did have a better tackle statistic as well, which is very interesting, but the All Blacks, they were kind of adopting the Irish strategy, allowing things to slide so they could win the turnover as well, doing a really good mimicry of the Irish breakdown work. The rucks though, Ireland were really giving away a fair few penalties over there. That's why they're at 92%. And when we get to the halftime stats for penalties, we can see Ireland's conceded 5 overall, All Blacks have conceded 7 overall, including the yellow card, but Ireland are conceding the penalties where it hurts, at the breakdown. And because of that, the All Blacks are getting a lot of set-piece opportunities and really making the most of them, getting 100%. And the fact that, All Blacks conceded 4 penalties inside their own half, Ireland only chose to shoot 2 of them. It really speaks volumes. Anyway guys, what more does the game have to show us? Let's show the second half. As we turn our attention to the second half, I need to show you guys another animation of play. This one here demonstrates a 3-man pod taking pressure off a distributor by making a pass out the back before the attack can be assessed. I've shown the All Blacks and Ireland with their take on this play so many times, but as we cut to 52-16 and then highlight the 3-man pod of Savea with Lomax on his inside, inside and Kane on his outside, we'll notice that Richie Mo'unga is in front of Lomax on Lomax's inside. Since it's a three-man line-out, fair enough to Jordan for coming off his wing to support Mo'unga, because Ireland have seen this play on screen thousands of times before, having used it themselves so often. We'll then see Van der Fleer marking Lomax, Doris marking Savea, and Sexton marking Kane, all begin to slow. 1 second later, they're prepared for heavy contact. Geordie Barrett is in behind the pod, waiting for ball, but as the pod doesn't have it, Van der Fleer and Doris brace for a ruck. Sheehan, who is marking Mo'unga, expects the same thing, but suddenly, Mo'unga just doesn't pass. He's now in a 2-on-1 against low, with Jordan able to take the pass. Because like we see with the animation on screen with a distributor between a kicker hiding behind the pod, Geordie Barrett was likely in this pod, stationed behind in there for a kick, while Richie Mo'unga was stationed in there to choose another option. With the two options we see on screen now available, I think this brings us to the fact that the All Blacks using the same pattern used by so many teams over and over and over may have just been a classic Joe Schmidt red herring. Joe Schmidt forced his hand too early ahead of the 2015 and 2019 World Cup as the Irish head coach, but I think as the attack coach for the All Blacks, being an assistant, not having to worry about the media too much, he's been able to relax a bit more, do his job even better than he did last time, which is really saying something. And Joe Schmidt learning from his mistakes, awesome to see. He really just outdid himself. Joe Schmidt deserves a knighthood. End of story. Against the Los Pumas pack though, Cody Taylor's wee escapade here needs to be avoided. The World Rugby passport or site as a source here clearly establishes that it's illegal for individual players to collapse a maul, while in a few bullet points up, it establishes that you have to join the maul by binding onto the hindmost player in your team. You also have to clearly be behind their feet. Taylor, now that we'll highlight him, is clearly touching the ground with his legs. The maul has clearly collapsed, so that's a penalty try. The one thing though, as we discussed during the halftime stats, it was the breakdown to separate the team. Jason Ryan also deserves a knighthood because he is the other saviour of the All Blacks. In a discussion with the Rugby Connection podcast that you can see over here, I had a heavy discussion on when and when not to compete for the ball. This was the worst attribute of the Wallabies for a long time and got them knocked out of the pool stage at this World Cup. Jason Ryan, however, has coached the same uncertainty out of the whole All Blacks team. Mo'unga, who we can see tackling Doris on 82.08, now binds to Sexton's legs on the next freeze frame. As we now reach 82.10, the ball is loose, with the ruck down, putting enormous pressure on Murray. Because of Mo'unga's interference to collapse the ruck, but not to go for the ball, this has taken Ireland off the front foot with a delay to their access of it. Papali'i literally stands on the offside line, while the blue line shows Whitelock and Retallick on his outside, ready to support. Whitelock, now on 82.13, is obviously wanting to tackle Kelleher, but with McCarthy on Kelleher's inside to clean the ruck and Doris in a different pod, Whitelock now recognises that Retallick, due to Doris being further away than McCarthy, is in a better position to land the tackle on Kelleher. Both of the locks make a tackle only frames later, but then on 82.14 we see Retallick is on the ground while Whitelock's hands cannot be seen. As we again refer to World Rugby's ruck laws, the art of the turnover comes down to the fact that a jackler must disengage from the tackle before re-entering to get the ball. Now we arrive on 82.16 with Whitelock over the ball. Because McCarthy was in the inside channel of Kelleher to start off with, he's unable to shift Whitelock off the ball as he hasn't come in straight. We now zoom in to see Whitelock's Xbox-sized hands over the ball, and the game is finished. By doing the homework on the Irish, doing all the research, making all those videos about them, it just makes victory for the All Blacks as a fan of the team so much sweeter. 28-24 was the final score of this match. I'm not going to try to read into this victory too much. I'm not going to proclaim that we're suddenly going to be favourites for the World Cup, but there's certainly a lot of good stuff we can take out of this game, and we'll probably get a few more answers to that good stuff with the full-time stats. As you can see, Ireland really just increased their share of territory and possession during that second half, but the All Blacks were still able to really just do a great job of holding them out. Ireland, through that extra possession, were beating far more defenders, making more meters. They won the clean break stat as well, more passes, more offloads, about 3 times as many passes. But defence is what wins games, and the All Blacks, with a lot more certainty about who sits where in the pecking order, I think feel a lot more relaxed on defence. They're not overthinking. They're just able to get the job done. And the breakdown, 7 turnovers to 4. The cover defense was defeated, and I don't think a lot of other teams are going to start adopting that tactic anytime soon. This is a huge boost as well for the All Blacks ahead of Los Pumas, who definitely do try to win a lot of turnovers during the match. The tackle percentage as well, despite making 230 tackle attempts, it was at 87%, a higher percentage rate than the Irish, who attempted 159. I won't discuss the goal kick success there too much because we'll get onto that later. With the set piece and the breakdown though, just amazing work. 5 scrums, all 100%, getting a scrum penalty in the second half through the young props Williams and Newell. Awesome work to them. I said 2 years ago that Williams there, should have been an All Black. I was right. Tamaiti Williams, what a beast. The line out too, the veterans Sam Whitelock and Brodie Retallick, awesome work. Scott Barrett, amazing game. But man, that's a killer for Ireland. The All Blacks conceded 8 penalties inside their own half. Ireland only attempted to kick 2 of them. If they attempted just 2 more of those 8 penalties on offer, they would have won. Wales, despite getting knocked out by Argentina, took the 3 whenever it was on offer. Argentina next week, you know, having these 12 penalties compared to the Irish 10 for the All Blacks, it's something we can't get away from. Because the Argentinians are going to punish us discipline-wise. Emiliano Buffali's got a great boot, and Argentina have been better discipline-wise lately. So man, awesome set-piece work, but can it be sustained? I really, really hope so. Ireland guys, I'm devastated for you as well. All the work you've put in over the last few years. Coming into the World Cup ranked first in the world. I feel really, really bad for you guys that we actually ended up winning the game, because I'm so glad to take the win, but I'm also, you know, gutted for the Irish. I hope you guys are going to be alright. I hope you guys can just, you know, pick up where you left off, because it would be a real shame to see the curse continue after it has done so yet again. 2019, I said if they don't do it this time, they never will. And I've said the same thing twice in a row this year in 2023. Ireland, man, gutting. Poor Johnny Sexton, poor Andy Farrell to see all the hard work go to waste. And I'm sorry that you guys had to have the tough end of a pretty bad draw. As an All Blacks fan, I'm very relieved to see the boys in it for another week. But can the trick get repeated against Los Pumas next week? We'll have to find out with tomorrow's video, because unless England lose to Fiji, tomorrow's video will be on Argentina versus Wales. So I will see you guys for the next one. One more thanks to my patrons as well. I'll just remind you guys too to follow me on a few other social media platforms. I'm all over the place. Specifically over on Instagram is how I all started. Gotta go off and edit this video. Got a lot of work to do on this one. So I'll catch you guys in the next video. Cheers for watching.